Ladies and gentlemen, hey hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Ever since like Black Ops 2 with the original Peacekeeper, DLC weapons in Call of Duty have been a pretty hot topic every single year. As the years have passed, we've started to see more and more additional weapons added into each game, with titles like Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 4 each having a pretty diverse arsenal. And this year is no different. Through the first few months of the game, we've already got 5 DLC weapons available, and another one coming later on this season. Then obviously we're going to have plenty more throughout the remainder of the year too. But today we're going to be ranking all of the DLC weapons we have so far, and also breaking down the best class setups for each. But before we get into it, if you're new here, we've been gaining nearly 1,000 new subscribers every single day. So feel free to subscribe if you want to stay up to date with the latest Call of Duty news and intel, best class setups, and all things of that nature. And of course, if you enjoyed the video at any point, let me know by dropping a like on it. Now, as I said, currently we do have a DLC lineup consisting of 5 weapons, including the Crossbow, the Holger 26, the Ram 7, the Grau 556, and also the Striker 45. So starting off the list in the 5 spots by a mile, and I mean it is no competition whatsoever, this is easily the worst out of all the DLC weapons, we've got the Crossbow. And frankly, we won't spend too much time on this one because it's just not a super viable weapon. But if you do choose to run it and you want to use the most optimal class, it seems the general consensus favors the XRK Carbon Elite arms for better aim down sight speed, the TAC laser for better stability and mobility, the Forge TAC Speed Track stock for better aim down sight speed, the F-TAC Speed Grip Underbarrel for better ADS and sprint to fire speed, and then finally the Fury Bolts, which are explosive, making it slightly easier to land some shots on the enemies in general. Truly though, the Crossbow is not an ideal weapon for any kind of competitive play at all, and it is more so just a fun casual weapon to use when you are just wanting to play a bit more relaxed, I guess. Now, getting into the more useful weapons, all 4 of the remaining ones we have are a lot better in literally every single category in comparison to the Crossbow, so the competition here gets a bit tougher. However, that said, at the number 4 spots, I've got the Holger 26. This was technically the first ever DLC weapon for the game, since it was the tier 15 unlock in the Season 1 Battle Pass. But also, out of the 4 serious DLC weapons we have, it is the most lackluster in my own opinion. It is classified as an LMG, but outside of its large base magazine and its really slow movement speed, it feels a lot more like an assault rifle and a pretty weak one at that. So it is kind of an awkward hybrid in that sense, and I would say it's really not the greatest choice of weaponry at the end of the day, but regardless, you can still make the most out of it by forging together a solid attachment setup. So here I like to use the compensator for extra control, the F-TAC Spitfire barrel for better mobility, the GI Mini Reflex as I'm not too huge on the iron sights, so I do opt for some better vision there. Then I also have the Commando foregrip for better control, and lastly the stippled grip tape for better mobility, which in the end makes the Holger a lot more lightweight and better for my playstyle personally, as I am able to play around those close and medium range fights a lot more and find success while doing so. Long range, it still is not going to be insanely good, but still this setup makes it usable, I guess. Now coming in at number 3, I've got the Striker 45, one of our newest DLC weapons that came to the game alongside Season 2. And honestly, going into Season 2, once we got word that the Striker 45 was going to be coming to the game, I definitely expected this weapon to be the more dominant of the 2 that we saw previewed. We all saw the Striker 45 and immediately thought back to the MW2 UMP 45, which is one of, if not the single best SMG that we've ever had in Call of Duty history. And so, playing off of that nostalgia, I was anticipating a really dominant SMG. And well, in the end, we got just a very average SMG at best. The Striker 45 is sold as a hard-hitting long-range SMG, except in core at least, even with some range-extending attachments on there, it really doesn't seem to feel all that hard-hitting or effective at long range. However, and that is a very big however, I want to emphasize that quite a bit, after experimenting around recently, I can say with the utmost confidence, the Striker 45 is one of the best weapons to use in hardcore. Whether it's shipments or a rust or a regular 6v6 map, this weapon in hardcore is an absolute machine. It is a 1 to 2 hit kill in nearly every single engagement you would find yourself getting into, and with the following setup on it, it is a serious phenom in game. So here, my preferred setup for both core and hardcore is actually the same. In this case, I found it to be really good in both cases, and it starts with the monolithic suppressor to increase the damage range, And of course, we also get that sound suppression too, which is a nice added bonus. Then I've got the XRK Gen 3 Survivalist Series stock, which is going to increase the ADS speed, the Merc foregrip for better accuracy and control, the 45 round mags because the stock magazine is definitely not the most convenient thing out there. And then finally, usually this is where the stippled grip tape would come into play, but that's actually not even an option on the Striker. So instead, I've got the FTAC G5 Exo Grip, which is essentially the same thing. So this class is going to result in the Striker being a bit more agile, while also having a slightly better range too. So you get a little bit of everything with this class, and while in those very long range fights, it is still going to feel like an SMG, in close and medium range engagements, this class makes the Striker 45 feel a lot more consistent. And like I said, in hardcore, this thing is unmatched. It is an absolute beast to use. Then, getting into the number 2 spot, we've got the Grau or Grau 556, our other Season 2 DLC weapon, which honestly, I was not paying too much attention to at first because, as mentioned, I thought the Striker was going to be the better of the two. But boy was I wrong, because frankly, the Grau 556 is a top 5 weapon in the game when it comes down to it, because it is ridiculously consistent and versatile. Its recoil is already very minimal, and it's even better with the class we're going to be using. The damage and range are both great, and its mobility, especially with this class as well, is fantastic all things considered. So close, medium, and long-range fights are all doable and winnable in any given game. Now, on the Grau, my go-to class consists of the Monolithic Suppressor to once again increase the damage range and to add that suppression when shooting. Then I have the 26.4-inch Archangel barrel that extends the range and increases the control and bullet velocity. Also, this barrel does actually end up changing the iron sights as well, which I would consider to be a win-win type of scenario. This just so happens to be my favorite barrel out of the 4, and it also has the best looking iron sights in my own opinion. I then also have no stock on there to increase the mobility, the Commando foregrip for more control, and finally the 50 round mags because those extra bullets can certainly come in clutch when you're playing a bit more aggressive or when you find yourself in a precarious situation. So all around, this setup really touches on all corners. You get good range and control, the mobility is still really good even with some attachments that don't necessarily favor it, and in general, the Grau is a top contender when it comes to the best of the best as it stands right now. Now, by process of elimination, that of course means the Ram 7 is the number 1 DLC weapon we currently have, and I mean, on paper, it is right up there with the M4A1 in terms of effectiveness and efficiency, and it is also a top 5 weapon in the game without a doubt. For a while, I really was not a huge fan of the Ram, but after using the following class for a few days, I found myself seriously liking this gun for its great versatility. So on here, I am using the XRK Ranger barrel to increase the range, control, and the bullet velocity once again, the XRK Close Quarters stock to increase the mobility, the Commando foregrip for the same reasons as before, and same deal goes with the 50 round mags as well. Then finally, I do also use the stippled grip tape here yet again. So with this class, you do end up getting better range and control, making the Ram even more effective in those medium and long range fights. Its damage is so good as is, that close range it can also hold its own, even though its mobility is not as good as some other SMGs or even some other rifles. Also, I did want to save this until the end because it applies to literally every single class we covered today, but my secondary, perks, and equipment stay the same on all of my classes. So there, as of right now, I am using the 357 with the long barrel, the 5mW laser, the lightweight trigger, the snake shot, and the akimbo perk. For my actual perks, I run EOD, restock, and then shrapnel. And then for my equipment, I use C4 and Stim, resulting in a very well-balanced class that overall is very good for going on higher streaks, racking up kill streaks, and just performing well day in and day out. So, with all of that being said, that is effectively how I would rank all of the current DLC weapons here in Modern Warfare, and that is going to wrap things up for today. If you guys enjoyed the video, let me know by dropping a like on it, and of course, if you're new here and you want to stay up to date with the latest Call of Duty news and intel, updates and leaks, and pretty much everything else in between, feel free to subscribe with your notifications turned on, that way you'll always know when I post a new video. As always, if you want to check out any of my partners, be sure to use code IMMORTAL on all Scuff, G Fuel, Control Freak, and Respawn products. All of those links can be found down in the description below, and once again, thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.
Bye.